Chapter 802. Since they had just moved into the villa today, it took them some time to clean up the villa. Therefore, they were going to have lunch later than usual today. However, Alex was receiving very good treatment at this time. He had two beauties, Emma and Mia, hanging around him and helping him to prepare dinner in the kitchen. Therefore, he could not help but feel that cooking had also become a pleasure today. After he was done preparing lunch, he brought the dishes out to the dining table. After that, Elaine also came down from the second floor using the elevator. She was going to ask Alex for money, but when she saw him coming out of the kitchen with the other two girls, she started to hesitate a little. She was not embarrassed to ask Alex about the money. However, the main point was that her husband and daughter were also here, and she felt that it would be inappropriate for her to ask Alex about the money right now. At this time, she suddenly heard the doorbell ringing. After that, she said in surprise, "Why would there be anyone visiting us after we've just moved in today?" After she spoke, Elaine turned around as she headed out to the courtyard to open the gate. As soon as she opened the gate, she saw Lady Richard, Michael, Harold, and Olivia standing outside the door. Elaine did not know that the Richard family villa has already been sealed off. When she saw the old lady and the group of people standing outside her front door with their bags and luggage in hand, she frowned as she asked, "Why are you here again?" Lady Richard ignored Elaine, and when she saw that she had already opened the door, she quickly walked into the villa. Elaine hurriedly stood in front of her to block her way as she said, "What are you doing here? Are you trying to break into my house in broad daylight? Do you believe that I will call the police and have you arrested now?" Lady Richard pushed Elaine aside, and she had a dissatisfied look on her face as she said, "Can I even come over here to see my son? Do you mean to say that I'm not even allowed to enter your house now?" Elaine felt very anxious, and she grabbed hold of Lady Richard before she said, "Why don't you understand me when I am trying to talk to you nicely? Do you understand me when I say that you are not welcomed here? Stop coming over to our house if there isn't anything important in the future. Please leave immediately." Lady Richard broke free of Elaine's grasp as she headed into the villa. As soon as she entered the living room, she could smell the scent of food, and she could not help but rub her nose hungrily. It smelled so good. This was even more fragrant than the duck and boiled cabbage that she had for lunch. Furthermore, the people from the court had come knocking on their front door even before they could finish their meal earlier today. After crying for a long time, the old lady was already feeling hungry, and she was starving. As soon as she smelled the food, there was a rumbling noise in her stomach. When Elaine heard this, she sneered before she said, "It turns out that the reason you've come over to our house today is simply to beg for food. To think that you used to be so arrogant. You used to demand for all your meals to be served to you hot. Why are you so hungry now? Why are you in such a pathetic and miserable state?" Lady Richard's face flushed red as soon as she heard Elaine's words. She wanted to yell at Elaine and curse at her, but she stopped herself and she held back her anger because she was planning to move into the villa at Beacon Top so she could live a good life. She could only endure the humiliation and insult silently as she said, "My good daughter-in-law, you are right. Mom is really hungry right now. Could you allow me to eat some of your food first?" Elaine sneered before she said, "You can dream on. I'll give you 10 seconds to get out of my house. Otherwise, I'll call the police to come and take you away." When Lady Richard saw that she would not be able to convince Elaine, she quickly yelled, "Trump! My son! Could you really bear to see your mother starve to death?" At this time, Trump walked out with a sad look on his face as he said, "Mom, I had just transferred $1.21 million over to you yesterday. What are you doing here again?" Lady Richard sat down on the ground and she started crying out loud. "My dear son, do you know that the bank had come to repossess and seal up our villa today? Your brother and I have nowhere else to go right now." After that, Lady Richard looked at Trump and she continued crying as she begged, "My good son, you're not going to just watch your mother starve or freeze to death on the streets, right?" Trump was a little surprised and he blurted out, "What happened? Why did the bank come to seal up the villa? It's all because of the debts owed by Richard Group. Lady Richard wiped the tears off her face before she said, "My dear son, you can't abandon me at a time like this. Your villa is so big. You can just give 2 rooms to me. I will share 1 room with Olivia and your brother can share a bedroom with Harold." Elaine was very anxious at this time and she blurted out, "Old woman. How could you possibly be so shameless? We've already said that we do not welcome you here at our house. How could you even have the face to ask to move into our villa? Don't you feel ashamed of yourself at all?" Lady Richard ignored Elaine and she simply looked at Trump as she begged, "Trump, you are the head of the family. Can't you say something on behalf of your mother?" After that, Lady Richard cried as she said, "I'm begging you. Mom will kneel down in front of you."